Prepare, prepare yourself for a dive into the darkest corners of the internet. Today we delve into the chilling world of the Red Room, a Japanese urban legend that is spread across the web and promises us a good dose of psychological terror. Dare you enter it? More than an urban legend, we could consider it a creepypasta, a horror story born and propagated on the internet. And what makes it so disturbing is that mix of technological and paranormal elements. Imagine, you're browsing peacefully and suddenly a pop-up window appears on your screen with a simple but unsettling question. Do you like the Red Room? That question itself already sends shivers down your spine. And what happens if you try to close it, ignore it, make it simply disappear? In the legend, it doesn't. The window doesn't disappear. It follows you, it stays fixed on your screen until you answer the question. And that's where the real danger lies. What happens if you say you do like the Red Room? They say that if you answer yes, your fate is sealed. The Red Room will trap you, cover you in blood, and turn you into part of its macabre decoration. Let's analyze. A creepypasta that terrorizes the web. It's said that a pop-up ad asks you, do you like the Red Room? If you answer affirmatively, your fate will be sealed. Blood, madness, and an indescribable digital terror await you. Don't risk checking this creepypasta for yourself. In Japan, the legend of a cursed pop-up ad circulates that asks, do you like the Red Room? It is said that no matter how many times you try to close it, the ad will reappear until you allow it to ask its final question. Do you like the Red Room? Those who answer affirmatively meet a fatal fate, with their blood adorning the walls and furniture of their room. The legend of the cursed ad inspired the creation of a horror flash animation. This video gained notoriety by being found among the favorites on the computer of the student involved in the Sasebo slashing, Nevada Tan, on June 1, 2004. It is warned that watching the video could attract the attention of the spirit that curses the ad. For added security, it is recommended to disable browser pop-ups. Those who wish to risk facing the spirit should do the opposite. Is this just an internet joke, or is there a real danger for the most susceptible minds? This question tormented Kira, a Japanese teenager fascinated by urban legends and mystery. What she did most was look for news on social networks and popular forums in Japan. She loved creepypastas, mysteries, and legends. That's why when she heard about the Red Room, her curiosity didn't allow her to ignore the topic. What's this about the Red Room? She asked one of her classmates, a boy named Hiro. Don't you know? He asked mockingly. That was the topic of conversation in the whole classroom, and practically everyone was already aware. They say there's a very strange banner on the internet that opens as a pop-up window, the boy told her. It's a red banner that asks you a single question. Do you like the Red Room? You have to answer yes or no. But if your answer is affirmative, a list will immediately open before you where you will see your name. You may also see the names of other people you know. Is that all? Rika asked, surprised. And what happens after you see your name on the list? Nobody knows that. It's probably just the joke of an idiot computer scientist. During the following days, the Red Room obsessed Rika. She longed to discover the truth behind the rumor, the fate of those who dared to enter the list. One day, browsing the web as usual, a pop-up window opened before her eyes and she felt startled. It was the banner of the legend, and as her friend had explained, it asked her a simple question. Do you like the Red Room? Without thinking, Rika answered yes, and then she saw an alarming number of bloody photographs parade before her, succeeding each other rapidly, showing scenes that seemed taken from a gore movie. People murdered, mutilated, or torn apart. After an intense minute of anxiety, the girl saw a list appear before her in which, of course, her name was listed, below so many others. At that moment, the window closed, and Rika begged inwardly that it was all a joke. She turned off the computer and went to sleep. The next morning, the police and local media had gathered at her house. Her parents were devastated. The commotion in the atmosphere was notorious, and no one could rationally explain what had happened. Rika, or what was left of her, lay dead in her bedroom. It seemed as if someone had taken their anger out on her body to such an extent that she could not be recognized due to the severity of her injuries. The scene was macabre. Blood covered the walls of the room, turning it into a crimson nightmare scenario. The Red Room experiment is a popular urban legend creepypasta that circulates on the internet. It is described as a terrifying psychological test capable of inducing hallucinations and madness. According to the story, the experiment consists of following a series of steps inside a completely red room without windows or natural light. The steps vary depending on the version, but generally include turning on all the red lights in the room, sitting in the center of the room, mentally or aloud repeating the phrase, "red room," waiting for the phenomena to occur. It is said that, after a while, the person will begin to experience increasingly intense and disturbing visual and auditory hallucinations. The legend claims that the experiment can lead to madness or even death. Claro, aquí tienes la traducción al inglés. El origen exacto de la leyenda es incierto, pero se cree que surgió en foros de Internet y sitios web de Creepypasta en la década temprana de 2010. Its popularity skyrocketed thanks to its spread on social networks and video platforms, where stories and alleged recordings of the experiment were shared. It is important to emphasize that the Red Room experiment is an urban legend and has no scientific basis. There is no evidence that such an experiment has been conducted or that it can induce the effects described. Experts point out that the legend is based on real psychological concepts, such as sensory deprivation and suggestion, but exaggerates them and mixes them with elements of terror and fantasy. Despite its lack of veracity, the legend of the Red Room experiment remains popular due to its symbolism and its ability to generate fear and fascination. The Red Room represents an unknown and dangerous space where the boundaries of reality blur. The experiment also appeals to human curiosity and the desire to explore the forbidden. The idea of undergoing a terrifying test to discover the secrets of the human mind is attractive to many people. In summary, the Red Room experiment is an urban legend that has captured the imagination of thousands of people on the internet. Although it has no scientific basis, its symbolism and its ability to generate fear and fascination keep it alive in popular culture. We no longer just read a scary story, but we can see it recreated in animation videos, video games. The line between fiction and reality becomes increasingly blurred, and that feeling of immersion, of being inside the story, can make the fear even more intense, more real. Undoubtedly, and in the case of the Red Room, the story confronts us with very deep fears: the fear of the unknown, the loss of control, gratuitous violence. Fears we all have, but sometimes prefer to ignore. It's as if the Red Room represented a mental space where our fears materialize, right? A place where what we try to repress, what terrifies us, comes to life. The Red Room, with its intense color and claustrophobic atmosphere, could be interpreted as a symbol of what terrifies us, of what we try to repress. And in doing so, it forces us to confront those fears, to look them in the face. And that confrontation can be very disturbing, especially for those who already have a predisposition to anxiety or paranoia. It is essential to remember that the Red Room is not based on real events. There is no evidence that the pop-up exists or that the experiment works. It's just a story, a creation of the collective imagination. But a story that, despite its falsehood, tells us about something very real, the power of fear and the fascination we feel for the unknown. Speaking of the unknown, what about the origin of the Red Room? Is it known where the idea came from? The exact origin of the legend is uncertain, as is often the case with urban legends. Some believe it originated in Japanese internet forums in the early 2000s, while others relate it to ancient Japanese legends about spirits and haunted houses. So it's a mix of traditional and modern elements. It is worth noting that Japan has a long tradition of ghost and spirit stories known as yurei. These stories are often related to death, revenge, and guilt. These stories are usually quite disturbing. I remember reading some that gave me goosebumps. Many of them are truly chilling, and I think that tradition of ghost stories has influenced the creation of the Red Room. The idea of a cursed space inhabited by a malevolent presence connects with the imagery of the yurei. Furthermore, Japanese culture has a strong sense of the supernatural. The Shinto religion, which is the indigenous religion of Japan, is based on the belief that spirits inhabit nature and can influence the lives of humans. So the idea that a spirit can inhabit a virtual space like the internet would not seem so far-fetched to the Japanese. The legend of the Red Room adapts to the Japanese worldview, to their belief in the supernatural and in the interconnection between the physical and spiritual world. And in addition to the tradition of ghosts and the belief in the supernatural, is there any other Japanese cultural element that has influenced the legend? I think we also have to take into account the social context of Japan. Japanese society is very hierarchical and competitive, and social pressure can be very intense. And how does that relate to the Red Room? Well, I think the legend reflects, firstly, that the Red Room represents failure, punishment, failure to live up to expectations. The question, do you like the Red Room? It can be interpreted as a kind of test, a challenge that tests us and forces us to confront our weaknesses. It's as if the Red Room represented failure, punishment for not being good enough. And that idea resonates with many people in Japan, where the pressure for success can be overwhelming. So the Red Room is not just a scary story, but also a reflection on Japanese society, on its fears and its obsessions. The legend, like all urban legends, is a mirror of the society that created it. It reflects its beliefs, its values, its fears. And in the case of Japan, the legend of the Red Room reflects a society fascinated by the supernatural, obsessed with success and fearful of failure. Exactly, and that mix of cultural and social elements is what makes the legend so powerful, so disturbing. The Red Room experiment is just a story, a dangerous fantasy, but a fantasy that, unfortunately, can have real consequences. The legend, by describing a specific ritual, can incite some people to imitate it, to put their mental health and even their lives at risk. That's why it's important to demystify the legend, to make it clear that there's nothing real about it. We must remember that the Red Room is just a story, a creation of the collective imagination, that the best way to protect yourself from urban legends is with critical thinking, with the ability to discern reality from fiction. And so, the legend of the Red Room continues to spread, a terrifying echo in the vastness of the network. Would you dare to challenge it? Or would you prefer to keep the door closed to this dark mystery? The decision is yours. If you enjoyed this dive into the darkest side of the internet, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that will make you question reality. And tell us in the comments, did you know this legend? Do you have any paranormal experiences you'd